$5 million spent while only raising $2 million. That single number tells you everything you need to know about Harry and Meghan's charitable operation, and it might explain why King Charles is reportedly holding secret meetings with his son's representatives at exclusive London gentlemen's clubs. The financial revelation comes from the Sussexes' own Archwell Foundation filings, and it has royal watchers asking a question that should have been asked years ago. Where exactly is all this money going? The couple who left royal life claiming they wanted financial independence has burned through charitable funds at a rate that would make most nonprofit directors wince. They spent more than double what they brought in. Let that sink in for a moment. Now everyone wants to talk about the Jordan trip, the photo ops with sick children, the carefully staged moments that looked suspiciously like official royal engagements. But the real story is playing out behind closed doors in London, where palace insiders say the king is growing increasingly desperate. His health is uncertain, his younger son's finances appear precarious, and the clock is ticking toward a transition of power that could leave Harry and Meghan completely cut off. Former royal bodyguard Paul Page has been making the rounds lately, confirming what many suspected about how these supposed surprise visits actually work. His revelations about the Jordan trip security arrangements alone should make people question every narrative the Sussexes have pushed. But the spending scandal is just the tip of the iceberg.
Paid for the trip themselves. That's kind of shocking. But then again, it's not, because if they used Archwell Foundation, because this is a write-off, we're going to Jordan to do our showing up and doing good. That's literally their motto.
What emerges from multiple sources is a picture of a family in crisis, a father trying to secure his son's future before his brother takes the throne, and a couple whose brand depends entirely on titles they no longer earn. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Strip those words away and what remains? Just another celebrity couple in Montecito, burning through money faster than they can raise it. The question nobody in the mainstream media seems willing to ask is whether Charles is secretly funding the very operation that continues to embarrass the monarchy. And based on what multiple sources are now revealing, the answer might be more complicated than anyone wants to admit. Paul Page spent years protecting senior members of the royal family. He knows exactly how royal security works, and he has been systematic in explaining why the official story about Harry and Meghan's Jordan visit simply does not hold water. According to Page, any foreign royal visit requires a minimum of 2 to 3 months of advance planning just for security alone. This is not optional protocol. This is how protection details operate when dealing with individuals who face genuine threats. The advanced team scouts locations, identifies the nearest hospitals and police stations, assesses potential vulnerabilities, and coordinates with local government officials. None of this happens overnight. So when the narrative emerged that Harry and Meghan had somehow spontaneously crashed the British ambassador's residence in Jordan, Page knew immediately something was off. You do not crash a private residence belonging to a British ambassador, Page explained in a recent interview. The ambassador would have had to contact the Home Office. There would have been coordination at the highest levels of government. Page pointed to a source working at the embassy in Jordan, who confirmed exactly what level of security the Sussexes received. The level of security was that of a head of state, he reported. Not the protection you provide for private citizens doing charity work, not the security detail for minor celebrities. Head of state level protection. Think about what that means. Harry wrote in his memoir Spare about killing 25 people during his military service in Afghanistan. That admission put a bounty on his head in certain parts of the Middle East. The idea that he would simply pop over to Jordan without extensive government coordination is not just unlikely, it is operationally impossible. The day after Harry and Meghan departed, Jordan faced bombardment. The timing was not coincidental. Security services would have been acutely aware of the regional tensions and would have planned, which means someone in the British government approved this visit, coordinated the protection, and then allowed the Sussexes to pretend it was all their own doing. Page has been saying these things since 2019, and the mainstream media largely ignored him until recently. Now that independent witnesses have verified his claims about Prince Andrew, outlets are suddenly treating him as a credible source. But the information he provides about Harry's security arrangements reveals something the palace would rather keep quiet. Despite all the public statements about Harry no longer being a working royal, despite the supposed financial independence, the apparatus of the state continues to protect him as though he never left. Harry maintains a private security team composed largely of ex-police protection officers. According to sources, these former officers charge approximately 30% above their previous annual salary plus expenses. It is not the millions that Harry has claimed in legal filings about his security costs. The numbers simply do not add up. If private security is relatively affordable, and if Harry has access to former royal protection officers willing to work at reasonable rates, why has he spent years in court demanding taxpayer-funded police protection? Why the constant legal battles over who should pay for his safety? The answer, according to multiple sources, is that King Charles has been quietly financing Harry's security all along. The The public statements about Harry needing to fund his own protection appear to be theater. Behind the scenes, money flows from father to son in ways that allow both parties to maintain their preferred narratives. This connects directly to the Archwell Foundation spending problem.
Just last year, they reported that they spent $5 million from the charity money, in spite of the fact that they only raised $2 million. Meghan and Harry are going through money like water.
If Harry and Meghan spent over $5 million from charity funds while only raising $2 million, where did the additional $3 million come from? Charitable organizations cannot simply operate at a loss indefinitely. Someone is covering the shortfall. Page puts it plainly. Harry doesn't want to pay for security because he doesn't have to. The arrangement suits everyone involved. Charles gets to support his son without the public relations nightmare of openly funding the couple who attacked his institution. Harry gets to claim he left royal life behind while still enjoying its protections. And Meghan gets to continue the pseudo-royal existence she craves. But the math creates a problem. Archwell's latest filings show an organization hemorrhaging money. Staff have been let go. The foundation has been quietly rebranded. James Holt, their longest-serving staffer, announced his departure in December. Only one employee remains, and she works on a consultant basis rather than full-time. So when Harry and Meghan flew to Jordan ostensibly to see where their charitable donations went, they were basically touring the results of other people's generosity. The $500,000 Archwell announced in donations last September to projects supporting injured children from Gaza and Ukraine came from funds donated to their foundation. They did not earn that money. They redistributed it while taking credit for the giving.
They're out of cash. This is all smoke and mirrors. They've been forced to downsize the staff as was costing them too much.
The Jordan trip gave the Sussexes an opportunity to see where their funding had gone, according to one insider. But another source cut through the spin. They are just gracing people with their presence. That is the elephant in the room. They have no more money to give. The photographs from the Daily Mail showed something nobody was supposed to see. King Charles's director of communications meeting with Harry's representatives at an exclusive gentlemen's club in London. Not just any club, a private members' establishment where the king himself serves as patron. The location was deliberate. The photographs were almost certainly approved. Royal communications do not happen by accident. When images emerge from inside a private members' club showing palace officials in conversation with Sussex representatives, someone wanted that story out. The question is why? According to sources close to the situation, these meetings have been happening regularly for months. The photograph summit was not an isolated incident, but part of an ongoing dialogue between father and son, conducted through intermediaries. Charles is not simply hoping for reconciliation. He is actively working toward it with an urgency that suggests he believes time is running out. The king is desperate, one source explained. He fears that once William takes power, all aid to Prince Harry and Meghan will be done. They will literally have to fend for themselves. This framing explains the apparent contradiction between public distance and private engagement. Officially, the palace maintains its position. Harry is not a working royal. The Sussexes must fund their own lives. The institution cannot be seen propping up people who continue to profit from attacking it. Unofficially, Charles appears to be doing everything possible to secure his younger son's future before the transition of power makes such support impossible. The leaked photographs serve a purpose. They signal to Harry that reconciliation remains possible while signaling to the public that dialogue continues. But the staging reveals something else. Charles wants credit for trying. If the relationship never heals, he wants history to show that he extended every possible olive branch. The photographs create a record of good faith effort. Sources describe William's position in stark terms. He is not listening to anybody. The future king has made clear he has no interest in reconciliation on anything resembling the current terms. He watched his wife endure years of stress while his brother's wife allegedly bullied staff and leaked damaging stories. He saw the Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, the memoir that exposed private family conversations. The public is wiser now, as one insider noted. We do not want Harry back in the monarchy. William apparently agrees with public sentiment more than his father does. This creates an impossible situation for Charles. His instinct as a father pulls him toward reconciliation. His duty as monarch should prioritize the institution's stability and public confidence. These impulses are increasingly difficult to reconcile.
Now, page 6 understands, this is some juicy stuff here. The pair flew commercial, not by private jet. Interesting. One, if that's true, I'm sure they did not enjoy that. They were probably still first class. But do you believe that?
Meanwhile, Prince William continues to function as monarch in everything but title. Palace insiders describe him as already king unofficially. The institution is preparing emotionally even if the paperwork has not caught up yet. William wanted Andrew removed from the line of succession last year. He was frustrated by the delay in addressing the crisis that now consumes royal coverage. While Charles sought to protect his brother, William understood that decisive action would serve the monarchy better than familial loyalty. The same active appears to be playing out with Harry. Charles seeks accommodation. William sees only liability. Saturday Night Live captured the public mood with brutal efficiency. The setup was simple enough, a joke about Prince Andrew's arrest and potential exclusion from succession. The punchline landed like a hammer. The royal family said the only way he can become king is if it comes down to either him or Meghan. The studio audience groaned before they laughed. They understood what the joke implied. Given a choice between a disgraced prince facing misconduct charges and Meghan Markle, the institution would apparently choose the disgrace. That assessment might be harsh, but it reflects something real about how far the Duchess of Sussex has fallen in public estimation. Page 6 published revelations that confirmed what critics had suspected. The Archwell Foundation has basically shuttered. Nearly all staffers have been let go. The organization that was supposed to be the vehicle for Harry and Meghan's philanthropic ambitions has been hollowed out, rebranded as Archwell Philanthropies, with its parents' network transferred to another nonprofit entirely. Against this backdrop, the Jordan trip looks less like genuine humanitarian work and more like a desperate attempt to generate positive coverage. They flew commercial, according to sources, though whether that reflects financial constraints or calculated optics remains unclear. They paid for the trip themselves, supposedly, though that likely means they expensed it through what remains of their foundation. The photo opportunities tell the story. Meghan positioned beside sick children with her face angled toward cameras, Harry looking increasingly disconnected and unhappy. Every shot composed to maximize emotional impact and media coverage. These are not candid moments of genuine compassion. They are productions carefully staged and professionally documented. Princess Diana did similar work, but contemporaries note a really important difference. Diana did not bring her own photographers. The press wanted to document her charitable visits. She did not have to manufacture coverage. The interest was organic because her compassion appeared genuine. With Meghan, the machinery of image creation is always visible. The Netflix cameras, the personal photographers, the carefully timed releases of approved images. Nothing happens without consideration of how it will play in media. The humanitarian work becomes secondary to the content it generates. Showing up and doing good remains Archwell's official motto. Critics suggest the emphasis falls more heavily on showing up than on doing good. With no staff, no sustainable funding model, and no apparent plan beyond generating publicity, the foundation appears to exist primarily as a vehicle for the Sussex brand rather than as a genuine charitable enterprise. Among the more provocative claims circulating through royal commentary is the suggestion that Charles might offer Harry and Meghan the Royal Lodge. The 30-room mansion recently vacated by Prince Andrew sits on the Windsor estate, expensive to maintain and in need of major repairs. Rob Shooter reported the claim as an exclusive. A royal insider supposedly told him that Charles wants unity, and that offering Harry a major Windsor property would send a powerful message that the door is still open. Neil Sean immediately countered with intelligence from his own sources. This story is 100% not true, he stated flatly. The idea that the king would install Harry and Meghan on the same estate where William and Catherine now reside defies basic logic. William and Catherine do not want to bump into Lamar and the younger brother, Sean explained, using the nickname that certain royal watchers have adopted for Meghan. It simply would not work. The competing narratives reveal something about how Sussex PR operates. Positive stories get planted in sympathetic outlets, creating headlines that establish facts on the ground even when those facts are questionable. By the time denials emerge, the original story has already shaped public perception. Sean pointed to the source of the Royal Lodge story. "This is Meghan talking," he said. "Her team floats ideas through friendly journalists, testing public reaction and creating negotiating use. If the story gains traction, it suggests public appetite for reconciliation. If it falls flat, nothing is lost. But the strategic leaking has diminishing returns. After years of planted stories that failed to materialize, media outlets have grown more skeptical. The Royal Lodge claim reads less as genuine palace deliberation and more as wishful thinking from the Sussex camp. What Meghan actually wanted, according to Sean's sources, was to move into Windsor Castle itself. She believed that proximity to the late Queen would have allowed her to build the kind of warm relationship that Catherine and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, enjoyed with Her Majesty. The suggestion reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of how royal relationships develop. You cannot manufacture intimacy through real estate. The video evidence from Jordan tells its own story, and it contradicts the official narrative of a happy couple united in humanitarian purpose. Multiple clips show Harry refusing Meghan's attempts to hold his hand. In one sequence, she reaches for him as they exit a vehicle. He pulls his arm close to his torso, making physical contact impossible. Her expression shifts from expectation to something harder to read. In another clip, the couple sits at a table surrounded by children. Harry positions himself at the far end, as distant from his wife as the setting allows. Body language analysts describe the space between them as the Grand Canyon. His posture angles away from her. He makes no effort to close the distance. These are not isolated frames. They represent a pattern visible across multiple events and settings. The tactile, touchy-feely couple from the early days of their relationship has disappeared. Where they once could not keep their hands off each other, now they seem to actively avoid contact. Nancy Sidley from the Sidley twins documented multiple instances of what she called Harry scarfing Meghan. The vernacular might be informal, but the observation carries weight. Something has changed in how these two people occupy shared space. The Daily Mail's choice of promotional image for their Jordan coverage said everything. Harry's head down, Meghan looking at him without smiling, both appearing as though their faces have been slapped with a wet fish. Not the imagery you would expect from a publication trying to sell a love story. Body language analysis carries inherent limitations. We cannot know what people feel from how they position their bodies, but patterns matter, and the pattern from Jordan suggests a couple enduring obligations rather than enjoying partnership. Multiple sources now indicate that Charles may hand the throne to William within the next 12 months, with health cited as the formal explanation. A senior courser reportedly confirmed that the transition will look measured and dignified. Health provides the most unassailable explanation. This timeline transforms every current royal story. If Charles believes he has roughly a year to shape his legacy, his urgency around Harry makes more sense. He wants the brothers to reconcile publicly in his lifetime. He does not want to repeat the pattern of George VI and the abdicating Edward VIII, who never made amends in public view. The problem is trust. Neither Harry nor Meghan can be trusted after everything they have leaked, according to palace sources. The Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, the memoir, all represented breaches of the confidentiality the royal family members traditionally maintain. How do you negotiate reconciliation with people who might document every conversation for future content? Charles apparently believes the effort is worth making regardless. A palace insider summarized his position. He has waited a lifetime for this role. When he steps back, it will be entirely on his own terms. William already functions as monarch in practice. He has been taking on increasingly major responsibilities while his father manages health challenges and family crises. The transition, when it comes, will not feel like surrender. According to a former palace advisor, it will feel inevitable. Meanwhile, Andrew reportedly threatens to expose royal secrets if he feels abandoned by the family. He is documenting everything, saving messages, jotting down names and dates. Whether this represents genuine use or desperate bluffing remains unclear, but the threat itself creates another pressure point for Charles to manage. The monarchy survives because it adapts before it has to, one advisor noted. If there is a handover, it will come from a position of apparent strength rather than crisis, but the family may have waited too long to act decisively. The charitable numbers tell a damning story. $5 million spent against $2 million raised means Archwell operated at a deficit of $3 million in a single reporting period. That shortfall has to come from somewhere. One possibility is that the Sussexes dipped into their Netflix and Spotify earnings to cover foundation expenses. This would represent a peculiar business model, basically funding charitable activities from entertainment deals that themselves trade on royal connections and family drama. Another possibility is that money flows from Charles through channels designed to obscure its origin. Private transfers between family members would not appear in public filings. If the king has been quietly supporting his son, the foundation deficits might simply reflect Harry and Meghan spending money that was never legitimately theirs to begin with. The departure of James Holt leaves the organization without experienced leadership. Holt served as one of the few stabilizing presences in an operation marked by extraordinary staff turnover. His decision to return to the UK full-time suggests either dissatisfaction with the Sussex operation or simply exhaustion from trying to make an impossible situation work. The rebranding to Archwell Philanthropies and the transfer of the parent's network to another organization suggest an enterprise in managed decline rather than active growth. You do not shed staff and divest programs when things are going well. Sources close to the foundation acknowledge the obvious. They have no more money to give. The Jordan trip represented one last attempt to extract publicity value from previous donations rather than any new philanthropic initiative. Perhaps most revealing is the disparity between charitable rhetoric and personal expenditure. While the foundation struggles, Harry and Meghan maintain a Montecito estate valued at approximately $14 million. They employ private security, retain publicists and legal counsel, and travel in a style befitting their former status, if not their current portfolio. The disconnect fuels public skepticism. When you claim to champion humanitarian causes while burning through foundation money faster than you can raise it, people notice the contradiction. When you stage elaborate photo opportunities with sick children while your own charitable organization collapses, the performance becomes harder to sustain. Every public appearance, every product launch, every event appearance leads with the same introduction: the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Those titles carry the entire brand. Without them, Harry becomes the estranged second son of the British king. Meghan becomes a former television actress with a failed lifestyle brand. The titles were granted at marriage and retained after departure from royal duties, but they were never meant to serve commercial purposes. They represent positions within an institution, not marketing assets to be used for Netflix deals and jam companies. Both of them should have been stripped of those titles the moment they started selling royal stories for profit. That sentiment, expressed by numerous commentators, reflects growing frustration with the ambiguity of the Sussex position. They want the credibility of royal connection without the responsibilities. They want the titles without the job. The legal battles over security funding reveal the same active. Harry insists he deserves taxpayer-funded protection because of who he is. But who he is depends entirely on an institution he has spent years attacking. You cannot simultaneously claim victimhood at the hands of the royal family and demand that same family fund your lifestyle. Meghan's grievances remain unresolved in her telling. She still blames the palace for not allowing her to publicly address bullying allegations. She believes that if she had been permitted to defend herself, public opinion would have shifted in her favor. This framing ignores a basic reality. The allegations came from multiple staff members who reported feeling mistreated during Meghan's time as a working royal. An internal palace review examined the claims. The results were never made public, which Meghan interprets as suppression rather than protection of all parties involved. Her continued focus on this grievance suggests someone unable to accept that her own behavior might have contributed to her problems. Everything remains someone else's fault. The institution failed her. The media persecuted her. The family rejected her. At no point does responsibility settle on her own choices. Charles apparently still hopes for reconciliation despite everything. The secret meetings continue. The communication channels remain open, but the window is closing. When William becomes king, the calculation changes entirely. He has no obligation to support a brother who betrayed his confidence and attacked his wife. He has no incentive to fund a couple whose public activities consistently embarrass the institution he will lead. The monarchy survives because it adapts. It has weathered abdications and divorces, scandals and wars. It will survive Harry and Meghan. The question is whether Harry and Meghan will survive without it. $5 million spent, $2 million raised, a foundation in collapse, a marriage showing visible strain, secret meetings that produce no visible progress, photo opportunities that generate mockery rather than sympathy. The numbers do not lie, even when the press releases do. And the numbers say the Sussex enterprise is running on fumes, sustained only by titles they no longer earn and a father's love they may have already exhausted. Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for what comes next.